Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. I'm your host, Maria Angelova, creator of the Angelova Method, an integrative approach to mind and body connection. The Angelova Method redefines your success equation to include a healthy body and a healthy mind. Hey Rebels, and welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And our treat and guest today is Barron Ryan, who is a composer and pianist. And I had the pleasure of connecting to Barron through one of his projects that he worked on. But today we're going to get to know Barron and learn all about his growth journey and all of the great things that he's doing. Welcome on board, Barron.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're here as well. Barron, let's get to know who the person is behind Barron. Give us 3 words that describe you and a little bit of a backstory behind each word.
Sure. Well, this is actually perfect because I have a tagline, which is 3 words long. It is classic meets cool, which is the shortest possible story I can tell about myself. That's why I created it, because I wanted to make music. I'm a musician primarily, and I wanted to make music that didn't necessarily belong to one genre or another, or even 2 or 3. I wanted to be able to choose whichever was most appropriate for the time. And so I thought, instead of trying to combine any categories, I'll just create my own. And really, it's a story of me loving both traditional music and more current music, and combining them in whatever way I see fit.
And you know what? Now we know why you're here, right? Because you don't fit inside the box.
Indeed.
You do your own thing and you create your own genre of music. I love that. So, for somebody who doesn't know music, I do have to tell you, my parents did make me play the piano.
Oh.
Sorry to say, I did not enjoy playing the piano.
Well, I understand. It's very tedious. Music, I mean, to get good at music, there's so much boring, banal work that it takes a special kind of temperament, maybe a little crazy to be willing to suffer through it.
Yes, probably suffering through it is the right way to describe it. If you put like notes in front of me, I don't remember anything. I only can play, if you know, the Cat March. That is the only thing I can play. But that's
goodness.
Yes,
that wasn't in my training. I don't remember that one.
Oh, that's after 3 or 4 years of piano playing. That is the only thing I remember. So that's my experience with music. Now, I do love music and I love to dance and I love to sing, even though I have got no talent for it. But playing music, not my thing. So I do admire people like you. And I think for somebody like me, you think of, yes, classical music, jazz, think about the different genres, but I don't really think of music as fitting inside a box, and you can mix a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, as a musician, what it is like, to step outside of the box of, a genre.
Well, it's challenging, especially depending on what the context is. So if you're making an album, for instance, then it's a little bit easier to set your own theme and to present in a way that you find is satisfying. But when you're playing a concert and you're trying to sell tickets, categories are really useful for people because it gives them some idea of what to expect. So if I say I'm going to play classical and jazz and some of my own compositions that incorporate pop, funk, country, then they think, well, am I even going to like all of this? I like some of those things. So it's a blessing and a curse, because there's the freedom of exploring, but there's the difficulty of getting people to join you on the adventure, especially at the beginning. It's very difficult because when you're starting out, you don't know how to explain it. So you can't even explain it in a way that will get people's interest piqued to get them to come see it. So yeah, it's been worth it, but it hasn't been without its travails.
2 things pop to mind. And one is I just saw the Taylor Swift movie with my daughter. I don't know if you... I assume you've at least heard of her.
But I have heard of her, yes. Right? I haven't seen the movie.
But she's somebody who has gone, kind of across genres into her, through her career.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she started in country, and has, gone like, I mean, all around. And even her Eris concert was a compilation of all of her music, all of the different genres, and she did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I can personally relate to you is, I was working on some stuff with my marketing team, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you do so much!" Like, and it's like, I think people get confused because you do so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you a coach? Do you teach Pilates? Do you do mindset coaching? Are you a journalist? Do you do podcasting? And like, I'm like, I do all of it, and
Right.
it all comes together. But I get it. Like, people were like, "Do you still teach Pilates?" I'm like, "Yes, I do."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they see the different dimensions of me, and I think it's the same thing with you. It's music, but it's music from different dimensions. Would you say?
Yes, yes, and I think if you lead with the story, then you can make it all make sense, because people are attracted to stories, and that's your real life story of how all those things are connected
Yeah.
within you. And so what I try to do is lead with the story, which is why my tagline is a story, because then once people are interested and invested in where the story is going, then they'll be along for anything. I'm sure you have people who started following you and then came along for whatever new developments came next.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I was just reading online today about marketing and branding, and they were talking exactly about storytelling and how some
Mm-hmm.
of the most effective advertisements out there are based on storytelling. And
Mm-hmm.
another key thing that you're bringing, Baron, is authenticity and owning your story, right? It's not somebody else's story, but you. Like, who is Baron, and how is your music different than anybody else's musician out there different?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that has to do with who you are and capturing your vibes and capturing your spirit. Tell me a little bit about that. Do you agree with that?
Yes, certainly. And it can be, we hear about stories a lot, so it can be easy to write it off and say, okay, well, it's a cliche, and everybody talks about it. It's hard to really understand what about your story is interesting. It's really difficult. It took me, and I'm still learning about how to talk about what I do without just making it about me, because you can start to think that, oh, people just like to hear my music or hear about me because I'm just so fascinating. I'm just such an outstanding person. And you may be fascinating and outstanding, but there are some places that you'll go, or that some stories you may try to tell, or if you try to, especially you can learn this very quickly if you try to do sponsorships. If you try to endorse some other product, then you'll find out, oh, this does or doesn't work with what people want to hear from me in this particular context. So if for the people who are listening, if you're not sold on the idea of story, well, it is easy to say, but it's very difficult, and takes a lot of patience to discover how to tell a good one, and then how to make a good one, and then how to tell about it.
I honestly think, I don't know. When I think about my story, I don't really think, how do I craft it? Like, what do I put in it? I just share my story, and I think there are a lot of pieces of my story that are relatable to the people who are seeking, let's say, my type of services.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not putting it there intentionally. I've just, when I first started and I started sharing my stories, people would come after and be like, "Oh my gosh, I feel exactly that same way. I could so much relate to what you were talking about." And I think that's kind of like the like attracts
Mm-hmm.
vibe, is you start attracting people who are going through the same journey. I mean, maybe you're a step ahead of them, but they start relating to you. And you're right. And I do think sometimes if they see you in this light and now you're advertising a product that's here, that's like, whoa, like
Mm-hmm.
what? But that has to do with people's perceptions of you, which in some, I would love to hear what you think, but I have, like, my self-discovery journey is continuously evolving, and I'm discovering more and more about who I am and being true to that. Because in the beginning, it doesn't feel safe. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're creeping out of the box, you hear criticism, you hear judgment, and it's like, do I really want to do that? And then as you keep growing, you become more confident, and you kind of get a prep in your step, and you're like, okay, I got that. You start feeling the momentum, you start attracting like-minded people.
Mm.
What is your thought on that?
Well, I have, I suppose, a slightly different approach to what I'm a lot of people say that art is about self-expression, for instance. And I have thought about that, and I used to agree with that. To me, though, it's my perspective has shifted into art being about communication, which is related to self-expression, but communication is not just expression, but also reception of a message. And so, for instance, if we're speaking different languages, then I may be expressing myself. Let's say that someone doesn't speak English. That's the only language I speak, unfortunately. But if I'm saying something to that person and they can't understand it, then it means nothing. It's just, okay, well, cool. You made lots of different sounds come out of your mouth, and you seem very animated and believe in what you're saying, but the message is not being received. And so when I perform, for instance, if I'm telling a story or I'm playing a song, then I pay attention to how people are responding to it, because I would like to express parts about myself or what I think is lovely, but I also just as much want it to be received in the way that I hope that it would be, in the way that I intend it to be received. And so I feel I especially in live settings, I pay attention, and I don't, it's not like I'm trying to do anything to get people to pay attention, but within my boundaries of what I find acceptable, I try different things and think, okay, well, if I say it in this way, then it resonates more with people. So that's how I approach that sort of concept.
It's very interesting, because through my journey and what I'm finding out is that the more I stay true to myself and to who I am, the more the right type of people are coming my way. And that could be clients, it could be friends, it could be connections, it could be right, like variety. And have you heard of the book The Artist's Way? I cannot think of the artist and of the writer's name. Have you heard of that book?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, you should. I mean, it's The Artist's Way, so it's talking about artists, but like it's really applicable to anybody, because in some shape or form we're all artists of our own life. And it talks exactly about that. It's like a process of self-discovery and really letting ourselves shine and be who we are, and like believing that the right people will show up, and like our music would, like what I do, would it resonate with everybody? No. Like, is your music going to resonate with everybody? Probably not, right? Is the same poem going to resonate? No. Is Taylor Swift going to resonate with everybody? Probably not, right? But it's going to resonate like with the exact right people. And from my journey, I am like totally discovering that the more I am being myself, instead of like, well, did people like this? Well, did people like that? Of course, we all want to be liked and, what we put out to be approved. But I think there is so much power into like scrapping up the boundaries and just like, I don't know, free flow painting. That's my experience. So it's really to hear a different perspective.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try some of that.
Yeah, keep me posted. Let me know how that goes. Yeah, I do think personally I love music, and I put on music every single day, because for me music is healing. I don't know what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, well, I listen to music all the time. It certainly can be healing. It can also rile you up. It depends on the type of music, I suppose, because it depends on what you're hoping to, how you're hoping for it to make you feel. There's music that I listen to get pumped up, or music that I listen to try to calm me, or whatever, and any sorts of emotions as well. But certainly it's a part of my everyday rhythm. And even when it's not on, I'm thinking of it all the time. I'm thinking of something that I have written, or I'm going to write, or something that I've listened to. I had a friend a few weeks ago say, "What percentage of the time do you think about music?" And I said, you know what? It's actually not that much. It's probably 40%. And then I just paid attention to what I was thinking for the rest of the morning. And I had to go back to him. I said, I don't know what I don't know what I was thinking. It's way more than that. It's more like 80. I don't know why I thought, but it was just constant. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, because sometimes I'll be thinking, and like family will be like, what are you thinking? I'm like, I am thinking, I'll tell you a funny story. I was with a friend, we were walking and we were on an escalator, and behind us there was a gentleman, and my friend was talking, and I guess I wasn't paying attention to her. And she was like, "Are you paying attention to me or are you checking out that guy?" And I said, "I am so sorry." I was like, "I'm actually looking at the imbalance of his pelvis." Sorry.
Checking him out, yes, but not in the way that you
Because,
would assume.
this is what I look at, like, is the body balance. And I was really looking and thinking, oh my gosh, he's so crooked. And like what was going through my head was, he's probably in pain. She thought I was like, checking him out for totally different perspective. I think it's what we do, it stays in my head, and my friends make fun of me. They're like, "Are you checking somebody's alignment?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." So I can relate to what you're saying about music.
Yeah.
But you have like a big new something exciting happening in your life. Do you want to share a little bit about that with us?
Absolutely. So I have gone and done something that I haven't done before. I wrote a book, which is an illustrated storybook. It's called Honey, If It Wasn't For You. And usually illustrated storybooks are for children, but this one's for adults, which we can talk about why I did that. But this book is about a song that I co-wrote with a man who died 6 years before I was born, and how this song came to be. And I knew that I needed some way of explaining why the song was so special before performing it, because it's a lovely song, but to hear what went into making it, all the sacrifice really that went into making it, makes the song exponentially more meaningful. So that's the teaser of the book.
Okay. Give us the name of the book.
Yes, it's called Honey, If It Wasn't For You.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, go ahead.
I could tell. Well, I didn't want to talk too much at once, but I can tell you more about how the story came together if you'd like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I became friends with a woman named Linda in about 2018. She came to a concert in which I played, and then she arranged for me to play for a party at her home because she saw me at this concert. And we talked a little bit. She was very friendly and gregarious, and so we exchanged contact information. And it wasn't too long before I stopped being surprised if she sent me an email or a text saying, "Hey, I listened to this music on the radio. I think you should play it," or "This sound reminded me of you," or something like that. And we would meet for coffee and meals at times. And so she was in her mid-70s, so a good deal older than me. And she became basically the biggest supporter of my work for a period of years. She still is, actually. But it was only 2 years into our friendship that she said, "Did I ever tell you that my husband was a songwriter?" And she had never mentioned him to me before. Through clues, I had surmised that she had been married and it had been some time since her husband had passed, but she had never mentioned him to me. So I said, "No, I didn't know that." And she said, "Well, yes, he was a songwriter, wrote country music. He wrote a couple of songs that Charlie Pride, who's the Grammy-winning and Country Music Hall of Fame member artist, recorded." And she said, "I wonder if you would want to look at the lyrics and music that he left behind when he died." And I said, "Of course I do." And then it took months for her to actually give it to me, because some of what I realized later was that she hadn't looked in these boxes for 40 years because her husband had died in 1981, and he had cystic fibrosis, meaning that they both knew that he was not going to live as long a life as most when they got married, but they got married anyway. And when he needed something to do for work, because he couldn't work a full-time job because he would spend weeks at a time in the hospital, and so he decided to write country songs because they lived in Dallas and he had a way with words. He worked in advertising before that, and so when he died, she looked in the boxes and then she put them away because she couldn't bring herself to go through the pain of his loss so recently. And then as she moved once and she brought the boxes with her, but she never looked inside again because she didn't have a reason to. And so she knew they were there, but she also knew that she had made a promise to him when he
Yeah.
was on his deathbed, which is that he said, well, what's going to happen to my music? And she said, I'll do with it what I can. And in the 40th year of his passing, she was thinking about that, and that came up in her mind when we were talking. So I had to be persistent with her because she had to look inside these again before handing them to me, and then she finally did. And I wanted to find lyrics to a song that he wrote about his wife, because then I could add music to it and record it. And so I found lyrics to a song called Honey If It Wasn't For You, which is about how she goes off to work and he stays home to write songs, but if it wasn't for her, there would be nothing for him to write about. And so I wanted to, I put those words to music. I performed it for Linda, and I got her blessing to share the story with the rest of the world. So that's what the story is that the book tells of.
And where can we hear that song, Barron?
Yes, you can go to YouTube and search for my name, Barron Ryan. That's Barron, and Honey. So search for Barron Ryan Honey, and the song will come up. And you can go to book.barronryan.com to order the book in hardcover or to download it for free in ebook.
Okay, so maybe we can include the at least like the song link.
Yes.
Your episode, yeah.
Yes.
Make it easier for people to find it. Excellent. Wow, what a story, and what a way to 40 years later. I mean, I can't even imagine how Linda felt about that.
Mm-hmm. It was I didn't try to, I tried not to surprise her with too much at once. I didn't want to I because I knew how sensitive a matter this was, and if she had not brought it up to me for that long, I wanted to be very careful and not try to go too fast. So after I found the song lyrics, I knew that that's what I was looking for, and I showed them to her, and I said, did you ever see these? Because I was pretty sure that he wrote them about her. It described her, not by name, but by her behavior, about how I knew them to be as a married couple. But I just wanted to, I wanted to be sure, whatever. So, and I did, again, didn't want to surprise her with too much at once. And so I said, have you ever seen these? And she had not seen that particular lyric sheet. And so she asked for me to send her a copy of it. And of course, the copy, what I had was hers anyway, but I was working with it still. So I sent her a scan. And then the next time I saw her after that, I performed the song for her. And so she wasn't completely surprised by the song. She had seen the lyrics. But after it was over, I was kind of expecting her to be just a puddle of tears. I had a box of Kleenex there, and she was misty-eyed, but she wasn't overwhelmed, at least not in that way. And so she told me that it sounded like the lyrics and the music were written together and not separated by that distance after she heard me perform the song. So that was very gratifying.
Woo, what a story that is, and that is, I think this is a beautiful example of connecting people through music, music and lyrics. And that is where I think music can be healing. I mean, like, even, my daughter is a teenager, and she's a big Swiftie fan, which is why I saw the movie. But it's amazing to see these teenagers as they go through their growth journey and how they can relate to that music, how connected they feel to it because they're going through that journey. And and like I said, I use music to calm me down, to perk me up, whatever it is. But it's a beautiful way to interconnect with people, right? To share music. I love to share. We have a tribe chat, and I love to share lyrics of songs or like YouTube links to songs that I enjoy to share with my people. So I think music is powerful.
Absolutely.
And look forward to hearing that song, Barron.
Thank you.
Yeah, very excited. Well, Barron, do you have a piece of advice or a favorite quote you would like to share with us today?
I do. Let's see if I can remember it. It will be close if it's not exact. There's a book that I read called For the Life of the World by Father Alexander Schmemann, and he wrote a quote and a sentence in there that has changed the way that I approach or really not changed, but clarified, and consequently changed, but more so clarified the way that I approach music. He says something to the effect of, beauty is never necessary, functional, or useful. And when expecting someone we love, we decorate the table with a beautiful tablecloth and put candles and flowers on it. We do so not out of necessity, but out of love.
Mm.
And that's how I try to approach music, is as an expression of love.
Love. Yeah. I'm telling you, I do think music is special. Even though I did not enjoy my piano lessons, I do think music is
Well,
powerful.
we musicians need far more listeners than we need fellow musicians. So
There we go. You got the listener in me. You know what? It's definitely a skill set. Out there with what I teach, I encourage my clients. I say, based on what you're learning here, go and see a ballet performance, and you see how your appreciation for the ballet performance would be completely different than before you started doing this, because now you'd appreciate the core control that they have, the flexibility, the mobility, the fluidity of the movement, right? And it's the same thing I remember my piano teacher, she had a way of like the way you have to lift your fingers and your hands, and
mm-hmm.
This wasn't my thing, but it was an art form,
Yes.
So like, yeah, it's an art, and like you said, it's something that takes I'm guessing it's a continuous growth process, just like everything else.
Yes. And the more you learn about a craft or an art form like that, the more you realize, as you say, how much work goes into it, how much sacrifice was necessary to present it to you in such a refined form, right, as it is seen on stage or on a gallery wall. And that is, I think that's the essence of beauty, is the sacrifice for someone else to say, I went through all of this suffering of practice day in and day out so that you could enjoy this, and so I could enjoy it too. It's not entirely selfless, because I love doing it too, but it is, yeah, that's what I see as being beautiful, is the willingness to do that for someone else.
Well, I guess that is how you serve the world, through your music.
Mm-hmm. I pray so.
Very cool. Barron, what's your definition of rebellious?
Definition of rebellious is to question received wisdom, and to test its mettle, so to speak. Sometimes received wisdom is useful and wise, but it's not always. And so yes, that's how I define being rebellious in the best sort of way.
Yeah. Sometimes we create our own stories behind the wisdom, and that's when we get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool. Barron, where can people find you? Like social media, websites, if they want to know more about you, listen to your music, where do they find you?
Yes, my website is barronryan.com. 2 R's and an O, as previously mentioned. And then I'm on most all of the social media, and no one's impersonating me yet. So just search for my name, and you should see a bald, bearded man with who's looking smilingly at the camera. So
you guys are looking at the video right now, you would know what Barron looks like. But if you're listening to the audio, then look for the bald-headed, bearded man.
Yeah.
There we go. Great, Barron. Well, Barron, thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate you sharing the story. Look forward to checking out the song that you mentioned, and wish you continuous luck. Rebels, do hope you enjoyed this conversation about music, authenticity, and do check out the song that is Honey If It Wasn't For You. Is that correct, Barron?
That's right.
Awesome. Thanks for being here with us, Barron. Thanks for listening, guys. Do remember to stay rebellious. See you next time. Did you enjoy the conversation? Like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Want to redefine your success equation to include a healthy body and a healthy mind? Check out our website at rebellious-studio.com.